It's 11 minutes after 9 o'clock and into the final hour of Kenya's biggest conversation on this Tuesday, the 25th of September. And we'll find our final conversation around the area of education. And our guest is already seated in the hot seat this morning. Not to forget that wherever you're tuned in from, on our live streams of YouTube, Facebook and on X Live, and our audience on KTN, wherever you're tuned in around the country, the region, and indeed the world, this is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. Dennis Ndu and Dennis with you this morning, and having conversations that matter, and that we're getting involved in discourse that's going to shape the minds of people, communities, the nation, and indeed the world. Looking at what's going on, and we'll get into another one this hour. Our guest is seated. Professor Humphrey Oborah is the World Talent Federation Secretary General. He's the head of Africa Missions of the Gates Africa Education Group, and he's in the hot seat this morning. Prof, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm great.
Karibu sana.
Thank you.
We're going to be looking at, unfortunately, from problems to crisis,
yes,
and the state of Kenya's education system.
Right.
And perhaps you're going to open this up for us a lot more. We whine and complain about this every day, and we ask so many questions about what could be. But it seems as though there's a fundamental philosophy to the problem that
right,
you're going to be able to share with us today.
Yep.
We're going to get into that in just a minute.
Thank you.
But Dennis Aseto wants to take you to Cote d'Ivoire. According to your dress and what you've told us earlier, a country not too far away from where you procured this particular outfit to go.
Yeah. And we are in Cote d'Ivoire, bordered by several countries: Liberia, Guinea, Mali, Burkina Faso, Ghana, and the Atlantic Ocean. That is a country that is known to be producing 40% of the world cocoa, which goes to produce chocolate. So if you're a lover of chocolate, perhaps it has some bits of Ivory Coast in it. But let's go to the proverb today. The toad does not run in the day for nothing. The toad does not run in the day for nothing. How would you interpret that?
It is also true that a mad night runner does not also run in the day.
A mad one?
Yeah.
What about the same night runner? Okay.
Yeah. The truth about that is that things don't just happen. Mm-hmm. And if they do happen differently, certainly something is different for that day. Yeah,
a different way to look at it. Yeah, because we expect toads to always walk around at night, because that's when they prosper. But if walking during the day, something must have happened. Yeah. Well put, well said.
Thank you.
Karibu sana. So we'll get into it. We'll jump right into it. It's no question that there seems to be a lot of rumblings in terms of what's happening with education. We've come into the 6th year now of a changed curriculum for Kenya.
Yeah.
And many would say that we never have been able to find, we've been shooting in the dark in terms of what's been happening. And then no sooner have you gotten out of the water that all the way through to the secondary school level that we're going to change things. And then even at the university level, we seem to still be in a state of crisis. All right, give us an overview from your perspective, what's going on, and as we get into what needs to be solved.
2 statements. One, the people will have fruits, and certainly they find the tree that produces that fruit, but they have no background how that tree grew up there. They try to pick the fruits, but the fruit do not taste like the one they know. They try to water it, prune the leaves, it doesn't work. Finally, they discover it is not the true species of that fruit. But then, because they have no idea how to plant the next fruit, they continue to prune the leaves and pull away the bad fruits, instead of uprooting the entire tree and planting a new one. That's scenario 1. Scenario 2, you like an architectural design of a building. So nice it is that you stole it, thinking that you'd build it and you take the accolades for it. Certainly you build it on quicksand, it is now cracking, and now you wonder what happened. That is the education in Kenya. But then you got to also build in the history. What is the thin line between learning and education? And what is the education in Africa? Let me tell you something small. How come we do have these problems, and the people who brought for us education hardly have these problems. The idea of slavery meant that there had to be a supervisor. And that supervisor had to take care of you whether it was raining or it was dry sun. But that became very difficult. It had to now colonize your mind so that we train you to do what we want you to do, called a job. And then to make sure that it feels good in your mind, we give you good salary. We give you good awards. And that has stayed with us over and over again. If you asked any African, Kenyan included, why do you want to take your children to school? It is never the answer of entrepreneurship. It is never the answer of building communities. It is the answer of getting a good job. So they sell their land, their cattle, to take their children to school with the belief that their children will get a big job, and that job must be gotten through the government or overseas. It is that those two thin lines that create us these problems. So we've never had a paradigm shift. We have had cosmetic commissions of inquiry, commissions of improvement of education that have had no answers. And it was about time, at some point in time in the early 2000s, that we said a new design must come in. And it took me and like-minded people to foster what would have been a game changer. Unfortunately, things broke in between.
By things breaking in between, what is it that you had envisioned with the restructuring and the new system of education that was coming to change things and even perhaps answer the question, why are you taking your child to school?
In the year 2001, I was in an aircraft from Amsterdam. Seated next to me was Professor Douglas Odhiambo, whom had known the man who studied Moi University. So we started a conversation. Based on this food given in this aircraft is for young people like you. I can't eat this. Small things. We laughed all the way. We came back here. We built good friendship. We met at Mayfair Hotel in Westlands, where he loved the Orient rings, and we continued that strong friendship, discussing the state of Kenyan education. Among the early ones that we're discussing, the importance of human metrics, the importance of understanding innate abilities away from rote learning, was enhanced by Rachel Kangethe, Kenyatta University, who took me to Professor Oliver Mogenda those days. Fortunately, Professor Douglas Odhiambo was appointed by the late President Kibaki to chair the realignment of Kenya's education with the new Kenyan Constitution. Our friendship continued. He remembered the ideas that I did have about what is known as the infusion of quality learning matrices in the education system. That I need you to underline. In that context, invited me to KIE to talk to the commissioners about those ideas and how they could possibly be used to draft the report in there. And I did present, and I got standing ovation. Douglas decided to set up a small committee to work with me. This committee was assigned to my office because there was no space at KIE. And the Kenyan thing came in. The guys told me, you know, hii idea yako Jaduong ni mzuri sana. Mambo ya kuassess watu, you know their prior potential, and then we align them. That's why you hear these things called learning paths, to line them with the paths. And we all agreed that was a good thing. But they said, but unajua vile Kenya nafanya kazi. Sasa, way back nyuma consultant, wacha sisi tuendeleshe maneno. So we have only 5 days, you train us. And I questioned myself, what is going on here? That I could work over 10 years and somebody just like train a doctor 10 years and somebody walks in because he thinks the idea is good, then he becomes a doctor in 5 days and then he puts you in the back room. I got mad, I left. And I didn't tell Douglas actually. That's the day I said I'm going to do what I'd planned. I'd all along planned to start Africa's first talent university. And again, underline, talent university, not any other. And I went to Kisumu, got the land, and I just laid the foundation. Who arrives there? Professor Douglas Odhiambo. He wants to know why I left. If you go to Kisumu, we have a tree called Professor Douglas Odhiambo tree because all the villagers knew him. As I was building, we sat under that tree. And that tree had a lot because the Mzee wanted me to go back to that committee and infuse knowledge. And I can tell you, I tried to go back, but things didn't work. And finally, I went to America when I was appointed World Talent Federation Secretary General. But I did give in a lot of information to the Mzee. But I can tell you, the Mzee's mind at his age was so rooted in academics. He half understood what I meant by learning diagnosis. And our hope was that the others would understand. They didn't understand. Unfortunately, somewhere on the way, somebody thought that talent means competence. Now, I need you to, as media, to understand that there's a fundamental difference here. Talent and competence are completely very different.
How are they different?
Let me tell you. Competence emerges from the rubrics of what your natural abilities can do. One is an outcome, one is the thing. It's like saying, if I'm coughing, I'm sneezing, I have fever, that's the sickness. That's a lie. The sickness is something else. Those are symptoms. They are outcomes that indicate you have. So, natural abilities which are measurable, and natural abilities in their metric values is what we call talent. That's the correct definition. Indicators that you do have those natural abilities are things like passion, interest, competence. So I questioned, when somebody in the Republic of Kenya said they are going to teach competence, I asked, how can you teach that? Because it's supposed to be the measured outcome. It cannot be something you can teach. But then I assume too, probably they mix the meaning of competence with talent. But then I questioned again, how then would they know the competence of a 6, 7, 8-year-old? Which method or tool would they use to know those competences? Because you can't walk to a hospital and say, give me an injection, let me take this drug without prior diagnosis. It's not realistic. The same way, you cannot walk into a classroom and say, I'm going to teach children this competence if you have no way of diagnosing that competence. There would be a problem there. And so I knew there would be a problem. And there are people who supported me in the beginning, except some went to politics. You know the people who have been to this studio who are loud against CBC because we were together at that very beginning. In the original design, there was nothing called CBC. I can repeat that 1,000 times. The whole thing called CBC came as a concoction, and they were lucky, Kamenyi was leaving, and Matiang'i the Forceful had just become the cabinet secretary for education. And with the closeness with Uhuru Kenyatta, they picked the slogan. So you heard them speak the slogans. I used to be in this studio long ago when Paul Melly was the MD. When I was talking about those things you hear the former president talking about, hata mtoto akiona damu ya mbuzi anasirai, you know, that you're trying to force a child to do medicine, but if the child sees blood, they just faint.
Yeah.
Though I was here, remember DALK, 2002, 2004. If you check your files, you'll see those things. So they borrow the slogans, but they forgot the engine. So it was nice that they put the country on a level, on a precipice, to be able to understand there's something new to be done, but they didn't understand the architectural design. Now let me walk you that architectural design so you know what should have happened. One of the things we considered Kenya is an African country. As an African country, in curriculum construction and design, it must be simple. It must be affordable. And most importantly, it must be futuristic. If you look at those three things are where CBC has failed. Is it simple? The answer is no. It is so complex that I can tell you the President of the Republic of Kenya does not understand it. The Minister for Education does not understand it, together with the PSS. Teachers have no idea what it is. Parents are wondering what the heck is going on, and the children are the grass burning out there.